Despite his small stature, Blossom manages to lift the heavy wheel from the roadside and helps Rahadin roll it back to the carriage as the piercing screams pour into the small one's ears. He grits his teeth as hundreds of wailing voices call out, unable to distinguish their words through the anguish. Ains and Lucian take a more supervisory role, overseeing the assigned Wainwrights. Left a bit, now left a bit, and just a little more left a bit, Ains casually states, guiding the hands of Blossom, who abruptly turns to the drow. No more left, he furiously growls. Oh, easy, tiger. Claws away. Can't leave the job half finished. Ains dismissively points to the carriage. Blossom mutters profanities behind his mask and returns to assisting Rahadin. Help is not like it used to be, Lucian disappointedly remarks. Tell me about it. Ludmilla agrees, pouting impatiently, just as the small mechanic and the pale butler heave the wheel into the axle. Finally, about time. Ludmilla approaches the carriage and swiftly turns to Blossom. Remember our deal. She bares her sharp teeth. Blossom silently recoils behind the others. Now get out of my way. I have business to attend to. She wrinkles her nose with disgust at the party and clicks her fingers at Rahadin, who wearily boards the driver's seat, wiping his damp forehead, and instructs the horses to move. Bye-bye, Daddy. Bye-bye, nicer man. Blossom waves them off. Damon, Aru, and the nobles cautiously re-emerge from the forest. Donny smiles brightly. Hey, you're back. Told you I had a plan. Aru grumbles with thorns and brambles in her hair. Damon disgruntledly steps forward to the smiling turtle, speckles of druid blood on his clothes. Donatello, I know you mean well, but would you refrain kindly from trying to get us all killed? The detective barks. What about him? The wizard deflects, pointing to Blossom with an accusing claw. He offered up Irina to that purple-haired witch. The detective stares with sharp eyes at the sorcerer. The small one can feel twin daggers penetrating his very soul. Ouch! The pink one yelps from his imagination. Blossom play pretend Hatman. No real hurt. Blossom gets skin for Irina. Right. My patience is limited, gentlemen. I brought you on this important mission because I believed you were capable. There is a spark of great potential within you all. I suggest you find it before my tolerance breaks. Damon turns to the nobles. I do not break promises. I will get you to Vallaki, even if it means cutting off a few assets. He runs his eyes over the party before storming off down the road. The party continue to walk, some filled with remorse, others determination. They cross an old stone bridge over a babbling creek, and Irina breaks the silence. Brother, remember that time Father took us fishing along Ivlis River? Irina chuckles softly. You mean taking you fishing? All I caught was a cold after falling in the mud. Ismark pretends to sulk and then slowly begins to smile and nudges his sister with his shoulder playfully. Hey, I was the one who helped you recover. I made you fish soup all week. You never did say thank you. Irina huffs, folding her arms mockingly. Why would I? That cuisine was an abomination. I saw more bones in your soup than in a graveyard. Ismark chortles. Wow, that's rich coming from the inventor of the famous apple seed pie. Irina grimaces. Oh no. Ismark embarrassingly covers his face. I can't believe Father ate it. He was picking seeds out of his teeth for 3 days. Irina laughs full-heartedly, but then quickly falls into sorrow, leaning on her brother. I miss him so much. Me too. Ismark gently squeezes his sister around the shoulders. It will be better in Vallaki. Father said it's the safest place in Barovia. But what if it's not? Irina ponders with worry. Let's not focus on the what-ifs just yet. Let's just get there first. The forest opens up into a grassy marshland. Ismark turns to Damon. We are approaching the Ravenloft moors. A rough highland, decorated with sparse woodland, and towards the far end, perched precariously on a thin cliff, is a dark castle. Lucian takes in a deep breath. He reaches out in the air, as if he can almost touch its ebony stones, and lets out an unnecessarily long vocal exhale. Breathtaking, I must say. He admires the fortress crowned with dark swirling clouds. Oh, I do miss attending a royal court. The warlock's voice is filled with nostalgic strain. Fine food, finer women, and even better wine. He shamelessly giggles. Which kingdom did you serve again? Damon inquires.
Oh, I served plethora houses as their arcane chamberlain, sometimes opposing kings too. So many over the years, it's hard to keep track.
The warlock appears wistful.
You have probably never heard of them, erased from history by their victors. That's what you get for not taking my advice. These eyes have witnessed many of the mighty rise and fall.
The old man smiles as lightning strikes a distant spire.
How so?
Blossom points to Lucian.
Your blind eyes.
The warlock whips his head around and stares directly at his squat interrogator.
One does not require vision when their mind is truly awakened.
He gives a dubious grin. The majority of the day is spent wandering along a winding road, battling against the bitter winds of the moorland. When they approach a crossroad guarded by a grand yet forgotten gatehouse overlooking a lightly forested area below, the party sees a wooden signpost pointing off in angled directions towards their pool, Vallaki and Castle Ravenloft. This disused gatehouse offers the party an opportunity to rest. Lucian looks longingly back toward the castle.
I honestly believe your assessment of Strahd is rather preemptive.
He huffs at the group.
He has only shown us generosity, patience, and respect since we entered Barovia. I don't think it's fair to only go by the accounts of his subjects. As we all know, the lowlights are simply envious of their greatness.
The warlock glares at Irina and Ismark with a hint of resentment. Ismark scowls at the disrespect. He adjusts his posture and clears his throat.
I understand trust does not come easy to you, Mr. Kane. But please, we have lived here all of our lives, witnessed the cruelty of our lord, the devastation he has wrought. I urge you, be wary. Many are deceived by his hospitality.
Ismark sternly responds as he reviews his map.
As far as I have seen, the level of discontent is the same as any other kingdom.
The warlock unsympathetically barks.
Peasants always complain, nobles always scheme, and royals get the blame. Tyranny starts at the bottom, I say.
Then perhaps it was your advice that made those kings tyrants. Damon rolls his eyes and takes in an exhausted sigh while stretching out his weary legs. Lucian whips his head to face the detective.
If one recalls correctly, it was you who came seeking my guidance to gain access to Barovia in the first place.
Lucian ruffles his moustache. Damon rubs his eyes. His will to argue is lessened by his fatigue, and he relents. Apologies, that was unsavory of me. I'm just tired from travel. Please forgive my unnecessary tone. Perhaps we should set up camp somewhere.
Typical. Seems the discussion on good manners is always postponed.
Lucian morosely folds his arms and watches the castle.
If we follow the road here,
the noble quickly attempts to regulate the situation by pointing to the map.
We shall end up in Vallaki Valley, mostly farmland. Perhaps we may find a welcoming homestead to avoid sleeping outdoors.
Ismark suggests. That is something we can surely all agree on. Damon soothes his neck. A good night's sleep.
By the name, I'm assuming we're close to the city then.
Aru quizzes the noble.
Yes, less than a day's travel from here.
Ismark puts away his map. Let's jog on then. Ains begins walking down a hill in the direction of Vallaki.
Wait!
Donny rushes after him.
Dev's on the comfy bed.
The party finds themselves amongst stretches of withering grain, passing by a series of abandoned farmhouses. Donny begins to worry out loud.
This is not the type of vacancy I was hoping for.
He pouts, thinking about sleeping rough again. As he speaks, a stone mill emerges from the middle of the grey fields, its propellers ungracefully spinning with rhythmic hesitation.
Hey look, that seems to be lived in.
Aru tilts her head.
Think that's the mill the pastry seller mentioned?
Blossom's stomach growls as he stares out toward the mill. He caresses the greasy paper packaging of the pastry he received earlier. He says, soothing himself. A soft breeze draws a mist through the dry crop stalks. Irina halts when she sees a ring of stone pillars, half buried within the ground.
Ah, I know this place from Father's journal. The Night Mother's Henge. These stones are said to harness a magical quality which repels dark entities. They are so ancient, apparently they predate the arrival of the mists.
Irina proudly states, remembering the adventurous spirit of her father.
Perhaps this should be our campsite.
Is it really magic? Donny runs his claws over the moss-covered stones to feel for arcana. There is a vague, familiar tingle, but the turtle is not majorly impressed.
They don't seem to have much juice.
Ains inspects the stones and gives his appraisal, discovering weathered runic symbols, which are too difficult to discern. Well, I'm not much of a historian, but these rocks are antiquity. They could have a touch of the old hocus pocus, so the Burgermeister's notes could be true. Night Mother. Sounds familiar. The detective claws at the pits of his memories, but fails to find anything. Well, either way, we don't seem to have much choice. It would be far too dangerous to travel after dark, so I will choose to trust the Burgermeister's work. Damon firmly states, using one of the pillars for support. Let's set up camp. I insist on keeping first watch. Are you sure? You seem terribly sour. Maybe you should rest first, Ismark bluntly mentions. Thank you for the concern, but I'll be fine. I don't need much sleep anyway. Damon abrasively gestures for the others to unpack their supplies. Get some rest.
Very well, Mr. Creed. Appreciated.
Irina smiles. Blossom, eat now. The small one nestles into an indentation on one of the leaning stones and begins to bite into the cold meat pastry. He begins to relax as a flood of joyful thoughts enter his mind. So many spawn. Blossom softly giggles to himself, grasping at nothing in the air, and slowly drifts off into a comfortable sleep. I don't mind roughing it, but this place is kinda creepy. Ains looks around unsettled whilst digging a hole for a fire pit.
Don't be scared, dude.
Donny drops kindling into the hole.
Tell you what, if another bear comes, hide behind me, alright?
Nice to know you finally accepted your calling as a meat shield. Ains titters.
Well, you gotta do what you're good at, I suppose.
The turtle agreeably nods.
So how's your career as a cigarette lighter going?
Huh. Nice burn. The rogue grins, raising his smouldering hand and high-fives Donny with the other. They giggle like children at a sleepover as the sun succumbs to the horizon, leaving a darkened, foggy sky. The campfire is lit and a relaxing stillness settles over the henge. Damon rubs his hands together over the fire when he hears the flapping of wings above. Perched above on the monolithic stones are a flock of ravens, silently staring at him. He stands cautiously, softening his excitement as not to scare the birds away, and removes his hat as a gesture of respect. My word, what a pleasure. He softly bows. What can I aid you with, my lady? One of the ravens caws at the detective. It seems there may be an issue of communication. The detective embarrassingly chuckles. The crow squawks again. A moment, please, if you don't mind. The detective lightly taps Lucian on the shoulder. The old man's eyes bolt open as he gasps and grabs hold of Damon's sleeve for dear life, as if he had just escaped a bathtub of acid.
There better be a good reason to wake me. I was in the middle of something.
Apologies, but Damon directs his eyes to the ravens. What do they want? The warlock squints at the birds with suspicion, and then towards the detective, who is eagerly waiting.
You woke me to fraternize with crop pests. Has sleep deprivation driven you mad, boy?
Sorry for the intrusion, but please, indulge me. It could be important. Damon apologetically purses his lips. Lucian groans.
Fine, get this over and done with.
He slowly stands, and his back makes a deep, cracking sound before swiftly entering into one of the raven's thoughts.
Staring is rude. What do you want?
The old man telepathically huffs.
We are just observing for now. When the time is right, we shall share our intentions.
The raven carefully tilts its head in response.
But a warning, there is dark magic in the place ahead. It is best avoided.
All the ravens turn their heads toward the mill before flying away together. Well? Damon asks with anticipation.
Nothing, they're just being nosy. Now that I'm up, might as well take over the watch.
Lucian grumbles. Oh, very well. Perhaps the Raven Queen is testing me. Thank you, Lucian. You're becoming a real team player. Damon clasps Lucian's hands as a gesture of encouragement before settling down to meditate. Lucian cringes and wipes his hands on his cloak. He turns to the mill with determination.
Dark magic, eh?
The warlock shifts his eyes over the group, ensuring Damon is unresponsive. He lightly kicks Donny and Blossom and awakes and lures them to the edge of the stone circle. out of earshot of their meditating elven leader.
I require assistance. There's magic involved.
He whispers and beckons for them to follow. The wizard yawns.
Yep, magic. I'm in.
And accompanies him without further explanation. Blossom briefly questions his choice as he walks away from the stone circle, but a sweet smell emanates from the mill and encapsulates him.
Pasta.
The magicers see an old woman pushing her cart down the road. Just as the dark skies begin to turn a lighter shade of grey, Blossom beams and shouts, "Good morning!" Morgantha hisses as her head turns rapidly with a fierce stare, which suddenly melts when she sees the group.
Oh, hello there. So sorry, my lovelies, but I've no time for pleasantries. The devil makes work for idle hands.
She chortles, lifting the cart.
I've got my rounds. But you go on ahead to the mill. Speak with my sister. Fresh batches just inside.
The gravel path leading to the mill has several poles with dead ravens strung together and pinned with crooked nails to a board. Donny grimaces, but can't help but stare at the morbid display.
Why would anyone do this?
To keep spies away from their business.
Lucian blurts and walks with purpose.
Yeah. I think it's to keep turtles away too.
The mill has a heavy stone base with a compromised wooden propeller, which rotates loudly, almost like it's screaming in pain. The windows are coated in filth, making it impossible to see inside, and surrounding the structure is a thick line of scorched earth. Donny inspects the burnt dirt and assumes it's from years of constant heat from the bakery, which can easily be felt through the bricks, but can't quite shake the feeling. This ring seems too perfect to be natural. The three stand at the front of the door. Over the threshold, a faded headstone reads, Durst Mill. But a much more recent, small, hand-painted plaque bracketed to the walls reads, The Old Bonegrinder Mill, home of the dream pastry.
Durst, huh?
Donny claws at his chin with intrigue.
Like the house that unfired itself.
Lucian raises his hand to see if he can sense any dark energy within the stones, but is left rather disappointed.
I've been made a fool!
He exclaims. Blossom can feel himself drifting toward the front door by his nose. His head bangs into the wood. Heavy footsteps can be heard on the other side. The latch clicks, and the door swings open violently. A tall, slender woman answers the door, her apron covered with flour. Her wrinkles tighten into a smile. Yes? How may I help you? She asks sweetly. Blossom want pasta. The small one breathes in the thick aroma of fresh baked goods. Well, my days. I'm glad you enjoyed them. I'm Bella. Please, come in. The slender woman attempts to straighten herself. She wipes her hands on her apron. A white puff of flour enters the air, and she steps to the side, inviting the magicers indoors. Donny screws up his face slightly, but proceeds to enter, flicking his wrist and checking for magical residue on the way through the threshold. There is a fearsome shiver which courses through his shell. My apologies. The place is such a mess. I just finished baking this morning's batch. I know this kitchen may not look like much, but I assure you our products are of the highest quality. Bella giggles, standing amongst the open baskets of bloodied mince and jars of preserved vegetables. What would you like? Blossom want meat, the pink one states, intoxicated by the fresh scents of the mill. Oh yes, that one is our most popular. She rummages around inside a crate. How many would you like? Just one. Blossom gets fat. He pats his round midriff. Of course. Well, what about your friends? The lanky woman looms over Donny.
No. I'm good.
The turtle observes the room, not being able to shake its uneasy aura.
You?
She points an elongated finger at Lucian.
Perhaps not. I'm more in the market for ancient knowledge.
Lucian scans the area, feeling a pungent wave of immorality coming from the upper floor. Ancient knowledge? Bella's eyes open fully in surprise. Well, our pastries are based on an old family recipe.
Wait, really?
Donny's eyes match Bella's, as he seemingly forgets the uncomfortable feeling within the room.
Are you willing to share? I'm a collector of such things.
Oh, I'm afraid not. Can't be giving away things that should remain secret, can I? She passes a warm pastry over to Blossom, who smells it through the paper before putting it within his cloak. and hands over his payment.
Maybe we can come to some sort of agreement. Have you heard of ecology?
Donny attempts to convince the thin baker about his studies. Lucian uses the distracted baker as an opportunity to skulk upstairs. It is as if he walks into a wall of dread and despair, and he smiles softly.
Oh, I'm close.
At the top of the stairs, bones are scattered on the floor amongst old, ragged clothing. There are multiple stacks of large ironclad cages. Cramped inside are dishevelled children in various states of alertness. Then the warlock hears a cheerful whistling from an adjacent room. Another old woman with thick grey hair stands before a table. Her curls bounce in time with chopping sounds.
Where is that dark sensation coming from?
Lucian openly asks. The woman spins in surprise. You shouldn't be here! Her brow lowers in anger, her apron covered in layers of blood. On the table, Lucian can make out chunks of meat and a small corpse with its ribcage opened.
What are you doing here to create such a lovely atmosphere?
The warlock smiles, sensing the putrid ambience.
That's none of your business.
The woman hisses.
Now leave, before I mysteriously lose grip on my cleaver.
Lucian snaps into reality.
Did you just threaten me?
He takes a step forward.
Do you know who I am?
I don't know, and neither do I care.
The woman waggles the bloody cleaver.
And you wouldn't want to know me either.
She steps forward to Lucian and firmly plants her feet. The warlock takes a long, hard stare, attempting to analyse the butcher. He realises the essence of darkness is coming from her. The illusion of her visage breaks, revealing a hulking demonic monstrosity wearing a bloodied apron. Lucian smiles.
Oh my, may I have your name, you beautiful creature? What? I'm Ophelia.
She tilts her head, caught off guard by the unexpected compliment before snarling.
Flattery will get you nowhere. You have witnessed my true self. You will have to die.
The horned beast lunges at the warlock, cleaver in hand. Lucian quickly reaches into his cloak and flings pocket sand into her eyes. She roars with pain, and he manages to rush down the stairs, grinning wildly.
Found what I was looking for.
He giggles gleefully.
The pastries are made of people. Ha!
What? While it cannot be seen, Blossom's face fades to a paler shade, and he promptly throws up into a nearby basket. Bella growls furiously at the mess and transformed into a similar horned creature as well.
Were you never taught any manners?
The party darts out of the door into the scorched courtyard, swiftly pursued by the deformed monsters. Donny launches the earth upward around the mill entrance and blocks the creatures inside.
You think a better dirt will stop us?
Muffled roars can be heard from within. No, but this will. Donny curls his arm in the air and produces what looks like a small flaming sun within his claws. He thrusts his arm forward. A huge fireball engulfs the mill, and Lucian lets out a righteous belly laugh.
Oh my, wonderful job. Shame about the caged children.
What? Blossom gasps and desperately begins to dig at the dirt barrier.
Oh no.
Donny attempts to blow out the flames, but it's too late. The fire captures the propeller. Lucian grins, looking up at the burning mill.
How hilarious. I do love a good roasting pyre.
Blossom searches all the corners of his mind for anything on mills to put a stop to the spreading blaze. He suddenly recalls the words of Madame Ava.
The charlatan knows that the sword of legend is hidden away within a lonely mill.
Magic sword. Lonely mill. He comes to the realization. Oh, odd relic inside. He turns to the others with concern.
The what?
Lucian's eyes grow wide and flames tear through the wooden roof of the mill. A sudden shimmering distortion ripples into existence and the creatures appear, literally out of thin air before the magickas.
You've destroyed our home.
Ophelia growls.
We may have underthought this. Maybe we can have some kind of parley?
Donny anxiously suggests. Bella bares her fangs with disquietude.
I'll recover the merchandise. You handle the intruders.
She vanishes into the aether.
Now I have you all to myself.
Ophelia manically roars.
I have to give it to you. You were rather cunning. A page right out of Zarovich's playbook. So how about this?
Ophelia takes a step forward toward Lucian.
You help put out the fire. Forget what you saw inside. and I'll let you live.
Lucian stares the creature in the eye.
I'd need a little more to sweeten that contract. How about the magical sword you're hiding in there?
Ophelia grits her teeth.
How do you know about the Lord's Blade? It is not for weak cattle like you. You wouldn't be capable of harnessing its power. Pathetic little worm.
Lucian closes his eyes and inhales sharply. His wrinkles slowly relax.
So be it. Have it your way.
He punches her in the face with an eldritch blast, and the sound booms across the fields.